Kindness is often seen as the hallmark of a good person, a quality universally celebrated across cultures and philosophies. It is taught as a simple and unquestionable virtue, the cornerstone of how we should treat one another. The idea seems straightforward. To be kind is to be good, to extend warmth and generosity is to uplift and connect. It is woven into the moral fabric of society as a golden rule, a principle that suggests if everyone were kind, the world would be harmonious. But the simplicity of this notion often masks its complexities. It assumes that kindness exists in a vacuum, free of context, intention, or consequence. The reality, however, is far more nuanced. While kindness can build bridges, heal wounds, and foster understanding, it is not inherently immune to distortion or misuse. When offered without thought or balance, it can lead to unintended harm, both to the giver and the receiver. This ideal often overlooks the dynamic and varied nature of human interactions. People come with their own motivations, experiences, and intentions, and not all will view kindness in the same light. Some will cherish it, others might see it as weakness, and a few might even exploit it. In this sense, kindness, though virtuous, is not always universally perceived or valued as such. The elevation of kindness as an unquestioned ideal can also place a heavy burden on individuals. It may create an expectation to always give, always be understanding, even at the expense of their own well-being. In doing so, it risks turning kindness from an act of strength and abundance into one of obligation or sacrifice, stripping it of its authenticity and power. Thus, while kindness is a noble and vital aspect of human connection, it is not a simple one-size-fits-all virtue. It requires depth, awareness, and intention to truly fulfill its purpose without falling into the pitfalls of blind adherence to an ideal. Kindness is often thought of as a purely positive force, a virtue that brings people closer and makes the world a better place. Yet, like all human qualities, it carries a dual nature shaped by the circumstances in which it is expressed and the intentions behind it. While kindness can uplift, heal, and foster deep connections, it can also, paradoxically, lead to harm if it is offered without discernment or care. When kindness is given with wisdom and clarity, it strengthens both the giver and the receiver. It becomes a bridge that allows compassion and understanding to flow freely, creating a space where trust and mutual respect can flourish. This form of kindness is empowering. It recognizes boundaries, respects individual agency, and encourages growth on both sides. It is not merely a reaction to a need, but a conscious act that aligns with what is right and beneficial in the moment. However, kindness can also become a liability when it is extended without consideration of its effects. There are moments when it may be received with entitlement rather than gratitude, taken as an expectation rather than a gift. In such cases, kindness can foster dependence, resentment, or even exploitation. For the giver, unchecked generosity can lead to depletion, frustration, and a sense of being undervalued or used. The dual nature of kindness reveals itself most sharply when it is misunderstood or misapplied. Kindness offered out of obligation, fear of conflict, or a desire for approval loses its authentic power. Instead of being an act of strength, it becomes an act of self-erasure, where the giver sacrifices their needs, values, or well-being in an attempt to please or pacify others. This form of kindness, while outwardly virtuous, carries hidden costs that may eventually erode the very relationships it seeks to nurture. Recognizing this duality does not diminish the value of kindness, but rather elevates it. It invites reflection on when and how to give, encouraging acts of kindness that are rooted in strength, balance, and mutual respect. This nuanced understanding allows kindness to remain a positive force, free from the unintended consequences that arise when it is given indiscriminately or without care. The reasons behind an act of kindness are as important as the act itself, for motivation shapes the energy and intention with which kindness is offered. True kindness arises naturally, without expectation, from a place of abundance and strength. It is an expression of care that seeks no reward, no recognition, and no validation. Yet in many instances, the motivation behind kindness can be more complex, influenced by fears, insecurities, or a desire to control outcomes. When kindness stems from a genuine sense of compassion and connection, it carries a purity that resonates deeply with others. This kind of kindness is self-sustaining. It nourishes both the giver and the receiver because it is free from hidden agendas. The giver finds joy in the act itself, while the receiver feels the authenticity of the gesture, creating a moment of shared humanity. This is kindness at its most powerful, unconditional, and sincere. However, when kindness is motivated by less conscious factors, its effects can become muddled. Kindness offered out of fear of rejection, conflict, or disapproval can feel hollow, even manipulative. The giver may be acting not from a place of strength, but from a desire to avoid discomfort or gain acceptance. Similarly, kindness given with the expectation of something in return, whether gratitude, loyalty, or reciprocation, becomes transactional. While it may appear generous on the surface, it carries an underlying weight that can strain relationships and erode trust. There are also times when kindness is used as a means of self-validation. In these cases, the act of giving becomes a way to prove one's worth or goodness, often at the expense of the giver's own needs and boundaries. This motivation, though well-intentioned, can lead to burnout, resentment, and a sense of being unappreciated. The giver may find themselves trapped in a cycle of overgiving, unable to recognize when their kindness is no longer serving anyone, including themselves. Understanding the motivation behind kindness requires introspection and honesty. It calls for a willingness to question whether an act of kindness is truly an expression of care or if it is being driven by external pressures or internal conflicts. By aligning kindness with clear intentions and authentic motivations, it becomes a source of strength and connection rather than a tool of avoidance or self-sacrifice. In this way, kindness retains its integrity and fulfills its highest purpose. Kindness, while a powerful and virtuous act, is not always best offered indiscriminately. Discernment in giving is the ability to recognize when, how, and to whom kindness should be extended. It is not about withholding care or compassion, but about ensuring that kindness serves its intended purpose without enabling harm or depleting the giver. This discernment requires a balance of empathy and wisdom, an awareness of the circumstances, and an understanding of the dynamics at play in any interaction. Not all recipients of kindness will value it in the same way. Some will cherish it and be inspired to pass it forward, while others may take it for granted or even exploit it. Discernment allows one to navigate these differences thoughtfully, choosing moments and methods of kindness that uplift without fostering dependence or entitlement. It recognizes that while kindness can be transformative, it is not a universal remedy and must sometimes be paired with boundaries or firmness to truly benefit others. For example, offering help to someone repeatedly without encouraging them to take responsibility for their own actions can unintentionally hinder their growth. In such cases, discernment means recognizing that kindness may take the form of stepping back, allowing the person to face challenges and learn resilience. True kindness often involves making difficult choices that prioritize long-term well-being over immediate comfort. Discernment in giving also protects the giver. It ensures that acts of kindness do not lead to self-neglect or burnout. Without discernment, one may find themselves overextending, offering time, energy, or resources to those who do not reciprocate or appreciate their efforts. This can lead to feelings of exhaustion or resentment, diminishing the joy and authenticity that should accompany kindness. By discerning when and how to give, individuals preserve their own well-being and maintain the capacity to continue giving in a meaningful way. Moreover, discernment fosters mutual respect in relationships. It communicates that kindness is a choice, not an obligation, and that it is grounded in genuine care rather than a desire to appease or avoid conflict. When kindness is offered with clarity and intention, it strengthens trust and connection, creating a foundation for more authentic and balanced interactions. Practicing discernment in giving is not about withholding kindness, but about elevating it. It ensures that kindness is both meaningful and sustainable, serving as a true expression of care that benefits everyone involved. Through discernment, kindness becomes a conscious act of love and wisdom, enhancing its power to transform and heal. Kindness, for all its virtue, cannot thrive without the presence of clear and healthy boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that shut others out. They are frameworks that protect both the giver and the receiver of kindness. They ensure that generosity does not turn into self-sacrifice and that compassion does not become an invitation for exploitation. Without boundaries, kindness risks becoming unbalanced, draining the giver and enabling harmful behaviors in others. Boundaries allow kindness to be given from a place of strength rather than obligation. They empower the giver to say no when necessary, to recognize when their own needs are being neglected, and to prioritize their well-being without guilt. This is not selfishness, but self-respect, a recognition that one cannot pour from an empty cup. Acts of kindness are most meaningful and sustainable when they come from a place of abundance, and boundaries are what preserve that abundance. For the receiver, boundaries provide clarity and structure, ensuring that kindness is not misunderstood or misused. When kindness is given without limits, it can create unintended consequences, such as fostering entitlement or dependence. For instance, continually accommodating unreasonable demands under the guise of kindness may teach others to expect endless concessions. Boundaries help set expectations and encourage mutual respect, making kindness more impactful and authentic. Boundaries also serve as a guide for navigating complex relationships. In situations where kindness might be taken advantage of, boundaries act as a safeguard, preventing the giver from being overextended or manipulated. They enable kindness to coexist with firmness, ensuring that acts of care do not come at the expense of self-respect or personal values. This balance is crucial for maintaining integrity and avoiding resentment, which can arise when kindness is given reluctantly or under duress. Moreover, boundaries enhance the quality of kindness by making it a conscious and intentional choice. When people give within the limits they set, their kindness is more heartfelt and genuine. It is not tinged with frustration, exhaustion, or hidden expectations. Instead, it becomes a pure expression of care offered freely and without strings attached. The presence of boundaries does not diminish the power of kindness, rather, it elevates it. Boundaries create a space where kindness can flourish without becoming burdensome. They ensure that kindness remains an act of love and generosity, rather than a response to pressure or an unchecked habit of overgiving. By establishing and honoring boundaries, kindness retains its integrity, fostering healthier, more balanced relationships and enabling the giver to continue offering it with joy and authenticity. Kindness, while a noble virtue, carries the risk of being exploited when it is extended without care or discernment. Not everyone who receives kindness will appreciate it, and some may see it as an opportunity to take advantage. Exploitation occurs when kindness is interpreted as weakness, as an open door to demand more than what is fair or reasonable. This risk becomes greater when the giver fails to set boundaries or when their kindness is motivated by a need for approval or fear of conflict. Exploitation can take many forms. In some cases, it may manifest as repeated requests for help, with little to no effort from the receiver to reciprocate or grow from the support provided. Over time, this dynamic can drain the giver of their energy, resources, and emotional capacity, leaving them feeling undervalued and used. What began as a generous act can turn into a one-sided relationship where the giver feels trapped by their own goodwill. There are also situations where kindness is deliberately manipulated. Some individuals, recognizing the giver's willingness to go above and beyond, may exploit that generosity to fulfill their own agendas. This can range from emotional manipulation, where guilt or flattery is used to elicit continued kindness, to outright taking advantage of someone's time, finances, or other resources. In these instances, the giver's intentions are overshadowed by the receiver's selfish motives, eroding the trust and authenticity that kindness is meant to foster. The risk of exploitation highlights the importance of discernment in acts of kindness. It is not enough to give freely. One must also consider the dynamics of the relationship and the intentions of the receiver. Offering kindness to someone who consistently takes without giving back, or to someone who responds with entitlement rather than gratitude, can lead to an unhealthy imbalance. Without recognizing these patterns, the giver may find themselves depleted, resentful, or questioning their own generosity. Yet the risk of exploitation does not mean that kindness should be withheld or abandoned. Instead, it calls for awareness and boundaries. When kindness is paired with a clear understanding of when to give and when to step back, it remains a powerful force for good. The key is to ensure that acts of kindness are rooted in strength and intention, not obligation or a fear of saying no. By being mindful of the risk of exploitation, one can protect the integrity of their kindness. It allows the giver to navigate relationships with clarity, ensuring that their generosity is met with respect and that their efforts contribute to genuine connection and growth rather than imbalance or misuse. Self-care is often seen as a luxury or an afterthought, something that can be postponed until there's time or need. But in the context of kindness and giving, self-care becomes not just important but vital. It is the foundation upon which sustainable generosity is built. Without self-care, kindness can quickly turn into self-sacrifice, where the giver's needs, desires, and well-being are pushed aside in favor of others. This dynamic leads to burnout, resentment, and emotional depletion, ultimately hindering one's ability to offer authentic, meaningful kindness. Self-care is not selfishness. It is a necessary practice that ensures individuals have the energy, emotional balance, and clarity to give to others in a healthy, positive way. Just as a plant cannot thrive without sunlight and water, a person cannot truly offer kindness if they are not first nourishing themselves. It is only by tending to one's own emotional, physical, and mental health that the individual can remain present, grounded, and effective in their interactions with others. When kindness is offered at the expense of self-care, it often becomes a strained, resentful act rather than a freely given expression of compassion. The giver may begin to feel overburdened, depleted, and even taken for granted. They may also begin to feel disconnected from their own needs, becoming so focused on others that they lose sight of their own well-being. This imbalance ultimately reduces the authenticity and quality of their kindness. They might find themselves giving out of obligation rather than love or care, which diminishes the power of their generosity. Furthermore, neglecting self-care while overextending kindness can lead to long-term emotional or physical consequences. Without taking time for rest, reflection, and replenishment, a person can fall into a state of exhaustion, stress, or illness, rendering them less capable of helping others in the future. In this way, self-care isn't just a means of preserving one's well-being, it is a necessary practice to ensure that kindness can continue to flow in a healthy and sustainable manner. Practicing self-care also reinforces the message that one's own needs matter. It sets a model for others to recognize and honor their own limits and boundaries. In relationships, when a person makes self-care a priority, it encourages others to do the same, creating a culture of mutual respect and well-being. It shifts the dynamic from one of imbalance, where one person gives until they have nothing left, to one of reciprocity, where both parties are able to give and receive in a balanced way. By embracing self-care, individuals maintain their integrity and sense of self, ensuring that their kindness is not rooted in obligation, guilt, or fear, but in genuine care. Self-care helps them recognize when they are giving too much and when they need to step back and replenish. This practice of honoring oneself makes kindness a conscious, intentional act rather than a reaction to external pressures or emotional depletion. Ultimately, it allows individuals to continue giving from a place of fullness rather than exhaustion, making their acts of kindness more meaningful, sustainable, and authentic. Self-sacrifice is often romanticized as the ultimate form of love and generosity, a noble act of putting others' needs before one's own. It is lauded as a virtue that shows dedication, compassion, and selflessness. But beneath this ideal lies a hidden danger, a dangerous cycle, where the giver's sense of self becomes blurred and their own well-being is ignored in favor of others. When taken to an extreme, self-sacrifice becomes a form of self-neglect, leading to physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion, and ultimately undermining the very ability to offer meaningful care. The danger of self-sacrifice is that it can lead to the erosion of personal boundaries. When a person constantly puts others first, they risk losing touch with their own needs, desires, and limits. This relentless giving, without considering one's own capacity, may result in the giver feeling drained, resentful, or even invisible. They may start to feel like their value is defined by how much they can give, losing a sense of who they are outside of their role as a caretaker or provider. This is when kindness and generosity stop being authentic and start becoming a form of martyrdom, where the giver's needs are silenced in favor of others' demands. Moreover, self-sacrifice can create an unhealthy power dynamic in relationships. It can lead to a situation where one person consistently overgives, while the other may begin to take advantage of this generosity. The giver, having invested so much of themselves into others, can feel increasingly depleted, yet feel guilty or unable to stop the cycle. This dynamic is not sustainable, and over time it leads to feelings of resentment, frustration, and emotional burnout. The recipient, on the other hand, may grow to expect the sacrifice as a norm, thus perpetuating an imbalance that harms both parties. Another danger of self-sacrifice is that it can breed an unhealthy sense of guilt. The person who sacrifices continually may do so out of a belief that their needs are unimportant, or that their worth is tied to how much they give. This belief can create a constant inner pressure to give more, even when it is not in their best interest, or when it causes harm to their well-being. Over time, this guilt can become a driving force, pushing the person to keep sacrificing until they are empty, emotionally numb, or physically ill. The long-term effects of self-sacrifice can also be seen in how it affects the giver's sense of self-worth. When one continuously sacrifices without regard for their own needs, they may begin to believe that they are only valuable when they are in service to others. This mindset can lead to a loss of self-esteem, as the individual's sense of identity becomes inextricably linked to their ability to please, help, or care for others. In extreme cases, this can result in feelings of resentment toward both themselves and those they've given so much to, further distancing them from the genuine desire to care. It is essential to understand that self-sacrifice, when practiced without limits, distorts the concept of kindness. True generosity comes from a place of strength, clarity, and abundance. It recognizes that to care for others effectively, one must first care for oneself. When self-sacrifice becomes the default mode of operating, it breeds burnout and resentment, and ultimately weakens the person's ability to offer the kind of support that others truly need. Sacrificing oneself constantly in the name of love or duty leads to a situation where no one benefits, the giver loses themselves, and the receiver, although temporarily provided for, is deprived of an authentic, healthy relationship built on mutual respect and care. Ultimately, while acts of sacrifice may feel noble in the short term, they are unsustainable in the long run. The key lies in recognizing that the best way to serve others is by maintaining one's own balance, boundaries, and well-being. Giving from a place of strength, not depletion, is the true gift, and it ensures that kindness and care remain abundant, genuine, and nurturing for both the giver and the receiver. Clarity is a powerful and often overlooked force that can amplify the impact of kindness. When kindness is rooted in clarity, it becomes intentional, meaningful, and effective. Without clarity, acts of kindness can become muddled, driven by confusion, guilt, or an automatic response, rather than a conscious decision. This lack of clarity can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, or even unintentional harm, undermining the very purpose of kindness. Clarity in kindness means understanding the reasons behind the act. It requires awareness of one's own intentions and motivations, allowing the giver to offer care that is rooted in genuine compassion, rather than obligation or fear. When clarity guides kindness, it is more than just an impulsive reaction to a situation. It becomes a deliberate expression of goodwill, chosen with thoughtfulness and purpose. The giver knows why they are offering help or support, and this awareness ensures that the kindness is directed in a way that benefits both the giver and the receiver. Furthermore, clarity in kindness helps to set appropriate boundaries. It allows the giver to recognize when to offer support and when to step back. Without clarity, kindness can easily become excessive or misplaced. It can lead to overgiving or enabling, where the giver feels compelled to give beyond their capacity or to offer help in situations where it may not be needed or welcomed. Clarity provides the guidance needed to know when an act of kindness is truly beneficial, and when it is simply being given out of habit, guilt, or a desire to avoid discomfort. When kindness is offered with clarity, it also fosters mutual respect in relationships. The receiver, sensing that the act of kindness is not driven by hidden agendas or unspoken expectations, is more likely to appreciate the gesture and respond in kind. Clarity creates an environment where kindness is seen as a conscious choice rather than an obligation or a form of manipulation. This openness and honesty deepen trust, allowing both parties to engage more authentically and with greater understanding. Clarity also strengthens the emotional impact of kindness. When the giver is clear about the intention behind their actions, it enhances the emotional connection between them and the receiver. The kindness becomes more than just a transaction, it becomes an exchange that holds deeper meaning. The receiver feels the sincerity and thoughtfulness behind the gesture, and this fosters a greater sense of gratitude and emotional resonance. Moreover, clarity in kindness encourages personal growth. It allows individuals to reflect on their values and goals, helping them to align their actions with their deeper intentions. When someone offers kindness clearly, without confusion or hidden motives, they cultivate a sense of integrity in their actions. This self-awareness strengthens their ability to offer kindness in ways that are not only meaningful but also sustainable. By understanding why they give, they can ensure that their acts of kindness are aligned with their personal values and contribute to their own growth and well-being. Ultimately, clarity strengthens kindness by making it intentional, thoughtful, and impactful. It ensures that kindness is not a reflexive or automatic act, but a conscious choice that is made with purpose. This kind of clarity enhances the effectiveness of kindness, creating stronger, more genuine connections between individuals. It allows kindness to flourish in a way that is authentic, healthy, and sustainable, ensuring that it remains a powerful force for good in both the giver's and the receiver's lives. Balance in giving is essential for ensuring that kindness remains a positive and sustainable force, both for the giver and the receiver. It involves finding a middle ground between generosity and self-preservation, where the act of giving does not overwhelm the giver or create an imbalance in the relationship. Without balance, giving can easily tip into overgiving, leading to exhaustion, resentment, or burnout, or it can become too limited, where the giver holds back out of fear, guilt, or a lack of clarity. The essence of balanced giving lies in understanding one's own capacity and recognizing the appropriate moment for generosity. It's not about giving as much as possible or withholding out of fear of being taken advantage of. Rather, it is about offering kindness, care, or support in a way that aligns with one's energy, time, and resources. This balance allows the giver to remain in a state of equilibrium, where they can continue to give without depleting themselves. One of the most important aspects of balance in giving is recognizing when to say no. It may sound counterintuitive, but knowing when not to give is just as crucial as knowing when to offer help. When someone gives without limits, or when they offer help out of a sense of obligation, their giving becomes less about the recipient's true needs and more about avoiding discomfort or pleasing others. This type of giving is not sustainable, and it often leads to feelings of resentment or burnout. By setting boundaries, the giver protects themselves from overextending and ensures that their generosity comes from a place of strength rather than depletion. Balanced giving also requires awareness of the recipient's needs. It is important to offer help that is genuinely useful rather than simply giving for the sake of giving. Sometimes balance means stepping back and allowing others to solve their own problems, offering support only when it truly benefits them. Overgiving can sometimes rob others of the opportunity to grow, learn, and develop their own strength. In these cases, the most kind and generous act may be to refrain from giving in ways that prevent others from taking responsibility for their own challenges. Moreover, balanced giving encourages reciprocity, but without expectation. It fosters relationships where kindness and generosity are mutual, where both parties feel empowered to both give and receive. In a balanced exchange, the act of giving is not a one-way street but a dynamic interaction where both individuals are able to contribute, creating a sense of partnership and shared support. This reciprocity nurtures the relationship, fostering trust and deepening emotional connection. Balance also requires self-awareness. The giver must regularly check in with themselves to ensure that their giving is aligned with their personal values, goals, and well-being. Sometimes people give in ways that are not aligned with their authentic self, perhaps out of guilt, fear, or societal pressure. When giving is out of alignment with one's true feelings or needs, it can lead to inner conflict or feelings of resentment. Balanced giving means offering kindness in ways that are congruent with one's own sense of integrity, ensuring that the giver remains true to themselves while still supporting others. At the heart of balanced giving is the understanding that kindness should not come at the expense of one's own health, happiness, or sense of self. It is not about giving until there is nothing left, but about giving what is sustainable, meaningful, and enriching to both parties involved. By practicing balance in giving, individuals create an environment where generosity and care are abundant, but not depleting, where relationships are nurtured without the sacrifice of one's own needs. This creates a healthier, more sustainable form of kindness that benefits everyone involved. In conclusion, kindness is a powerful and transformative force, but it requires careful navigation to ensure it remains genuine and sustainable. True kindness is not about indiscriminate giving or self-sacrifice, but about maintaining balance, clarity, and discernment. By setting healthy boundaries, recognizing the risks of exploitation, and prioritizing self-care, one can offer kindness in a way that is meaningful, intentional, and fulfilling for both the giver and the receiver. Practicing balance in giving ensures that kindness remains a positive force, empowering relationships and promoting mutual respect. Ultimately, when kindness is rooted in awareness and wisdom, it becomes a source of strength, not depletion, and fosters a culture of genuine care and connection.